Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads, and especially all you gardeners out there? This is Mr. Weedman and Big Earl with the Grow Hour. Big Earl, my brother, how the hell are you?
What's up? I'm really good, dude. How are you?
I'm good, man. Talking a little earlier before we start recording. You got a fucking new tattoo today. You want to talk about this new tattoo you got? Because you showed me a pic, boy, and that looked like it hurt, but it is very beautiful.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was, man, I tried everything I could to get out of this pain, and it was not, it didn't work. Hey, if you want to get a tattoo on top of your foot, power to you. I'm glad I did. It's not like I don't like it, but man, it's such a dope tattoo. It's
It
like
ain't
a
small.
devil face, kind of. Yeah, it's the whole top of my foot. It was it's like some people you read online and some people talk about it wasn't as bad as some things you read, but it was definitely my most painful tattoo.
A lot of good looking color, a lot of good looking piece.
Yeah, she did a great job on it.
Yeah. So, but we're smoking some. We didn't call each other, but we're both wearing the same shirt. We're both smoking blueberry soda today. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So
on Wednesdays we wear pink.
Yeah. It is October, isn't it? Isn't it Breast Cancer Awareness Month? So we should be wearing pink.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, though, I found a seed in the blueberry soda. I think we were talking earlier about this before we hit record, and I put that in the water. It's in the fucking it's in the paper towel right now, and it's sprouted. So tomorrow it's getting planted. I'm stoked.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. I never like to see seeds in weed that people get, but I do breed fucking 5 feet outside my flower tent, and it definitely happens every now and again. So the dad of that should be either the peach stank male or the bog blueberry, sour blueberry or sour strawberry male.
Ooh.
So you should be able to know, because if it's sour and strawberry, that's pretty big indication of where it's going.
I'm excited, man, because I'll have four plants in that tent. I don't know if they're all females or not. We'll find out. But if I got 4 plants in that tent, and they're all female, I'm in trouble. So yeah. I got to keep those ladies tight and small, or else it's gonna go out of control. So, but I'm super stoked because I'm super stoked to go on that Lebanese Landry strain that I got 3 nice ladies. I'll post a picture of that tomorrow and show your grow Fridays, of course. And but they're looking late. They're looking good, man. I'm excited about this strain. You know what happened? I think we talked yesterday during practice, and the cup got knocked down and bent fucking one of the plants over. So I had Mrs. Weedman, who is MacGyver to the T, got it back up, took a stick, got it back up, took a little piece of twine around there just very lightly so it had something to lean on, and then took a pin, like a bobby pin, and placed it in the top of the stick, and then put the twine up there on the top so it would hold it straight up. And I tell you what, it looked like I didn't think it was going to make it. I think it's going to make it. I think it's alive. It's alive. I think it's alive. So I'm super stoked. So when you see it tomorrow, the picture, you got to let me know. But yeah, I'm going to probably keep it like that. You still see a little crimp in it, but it looks like it's getting better and better. So it happened like 3 or 4 days ago. So, but I think it's going to make it. I think it's going to be alive. So nice. Super stoked, man. What you got? Anything right now you got in the hopper that you're super stoked about?
Man, I did just test out. So my last Autoflower cross I tested out, and I was planning on doing some breeding, honestly, because it was a pretty big test for it, but it just didn't work out that way for me. So I just did a test on it, and man, does it look and smell good. I was out of town for a little bit. My wife watered down there for me, and I got in trouble because she said, "Oh, now I smell like weed." I was like, "Yeah, that's the veg room with autoflowers." Like, look at me filling some space in here, And well, yeah, I do that whole last auto. This one coming up on my next selections. Definitely, I'm really geeked about this next autoflower run, and really all these plants. Honestly, the bog sour strawberry bog line and the peach tank is so nice. Like,
the pictures you posted the last couple of days, man, those fucking plants were amazing.
Those were all old. Like that sparkling wine was a friend of mine's selection. A couple years old, I think, by now. That Peachy Keen's the mom of that peach stank. So that's unfortunately her last run sometime, but she's still in the peach stank really heavy. But man, does she look beautiful. She's like velvety. and just stack that. You can. But yeah, thank you.
Pretty ladies, chirpy looking as hell, trichomes up and down, the sexy. That's all I gotta say. Sexy.
Thank you. Hopefully they taste as good as they look and smell.
Well, I mean, come on now. I have not had a bad plant from Big Earl ever. So, so everything I've had is taste.
That's what I tell people.
Yeah, man. Flavor over everything, right? As Umami says, our friend Umami says. So, but super stoked about this show. You know why? We're talking about something we haven't discussed, and something I'm very raw about, don't know much about, but perpetual gardening. And what is it? And from what I read, because you sent me on little tests and I have to learn, so I do a little reading before our shows and what topics you decide to talk about. I have to somewhat be a little bit of knowing, of what we're going to talk about on these shows. And perpetual gardening, from what I read, was continuous gardening. Like, you don't stop. You just go and go and go. And you do your cleaning while you're gardening. You do your planting while you're gardening. You do your breeding while you just don't. You have it running. Somebody like myself with a small little tent, one tent, it could work. It doesn't always work. So for me, like we talked about on a prior show, I take a break in between grows. And just because I just need to refresh and reset, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot. If you don't do this full time and you're doing this while you have a full-time job or doing a podcast, full-time job, family, all that stuff, it takes some time. And it takes work and it takes love, right, to grow your medicine. So for me, I take a month off, but I could see how I could possibly do it. Like, as soon as that plant is ready to harvest, I already have my next grow in the plate in paper towel, ready to pop. Clean the tent, boom, 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 done, ready. It's in. So I could possibly do that. I choose not to. But I understand the meaning of it now, what you mean by that. So what is perpetual gardening?
So yeah, that's exactly, it just keeps going. And there's a lot of different perpetual gardening, like it's any big garden is perpetually gardening, a lot of different reasons. And we'll get into that actually a little bit later. But at home, it's a little different. Like you said, in a smaller tent or in a basement, sometimes it's only seen that you can plant and flip and you use the one room for everything. But there's some little ways, not even little ways, they're just ways that you can perpetual garden in your house and keep it going. And so, it's maybe you don't have if you're usually harvesting 4 plants, maybe you harvest 1 plant every 2 weeks. It splits up your trimming. It does a lot of stuff, so that, what is perpetual gardening? You hit it on the head. It's pretty much anything that, unless it's seasonal gardening, anything that's in like greenhouses and that has especially cannabis that's larger, is continuously gardening. Like, there's no large facility or even large garden in general that's going to stop gardening and then totally reflip and then stop gardening and then totally reflip.
Yeah, because they have plenty of rooms, though, too, that they're growing. And as soon as one room is done, they cut that down. And they also have 4 or 5 other rooms growing. That might be a few days off. And then as soon as that room is cut down, they probably, clean it, strip it down, clean it. And then all of a sudden they got that next round of clones that have already been in their cloning room. That's already probably this big, right? And ready to go to the next big room, right?
Yep, ready to flip. You want to? I mean, it depends on room size, or it just depends on how fast you can get it flipped and how the size of it all. But you want to be cleaned in a day. I mean, you want to cut down one day, get rid of all the trash, have nothing there, and then clean the next day, and then really the day after that, you want to be moving in plants. That's the most sufficient. I guess you could be more sufficient if you had a wild crew that was a little bigger and you came and you did it all in a day, but part of that is splitting up that labor and doing it that way. Because that's what that does. You don't want to have 50 people for 2 days or 2 weeks and then have no hours for 2 weeks, then have 50 people for 2 weeks and then no hours for 2 weeks, or whatever it ends up being. So, a lot of times it doesn't make a lot, like we said, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but there are a lot of times where it could, if you use medicine constantly and you want to have fresh weed constantly and you don't have another source of it, it might be an option for you. You know, and it might be your best bet.
Oh, I know there's people out there, home growers that do that perpetual growing where they don't stop. You know, they might take a day or two, you know, but they have that next round already, whether they're cloning or they have their seeds germinating already, ready to go into that. But somebody like myself, though, also uses the tent for drying.
Yeah.
So I don't have a drying room. So I also have to use that tent for drying. So you think 15 days to dry, you know, and then you trim it all up, put in your jars. Then you could have your next grow going if you want to do it that way too. There's some people that have to use their tent to dry because they have nowhere else to put it. So,
Totally.
Yeah. So, you know, but I'm excited about doing a perpetual gardening one day when I have a bigger space to grow, maybe 2 tents, or maybe, you know, you get your, you know, your veg flower tent, and as soon as you're moving, you're just constantly going again with 2 tents, you know, or one day, hopefully, to have my own little greenhouse garden where I could just grow all year round, which would be kind of really fun to do. So, but what makes it different from the traditional cannabis gardening then?
So traditionally, like traditional is in the terms of like when how we've always gardened up until the last, 10, 20 years, not even 20 years now. What is it, 10, 15 years maybe now? Was exactly like what we were talking. You would get around, maybe you'd buy clones, find clones, pop seeds. You do your round, you take it through. You'd usually veg, flower, and dry in the same area. Maybe somebody would do that 3 or 4 rounds. But back in the day, a lot of people would keep it moving. You do 3 or 4 rounds. You do maybe a year or two at a place. You break it down, and you go to a new place, and then you get a 3-6 month lull. It was much more lucrative back then, so you could pull down and survive a little while, and but there's just different. I feel like that method has gone a lot into the modern day gardening. And so when we were talking about this episode, and it was like we wanted to talk about our upcoming shows because we're really excited about it. And it was like, okay, we can probably talk about that for 15, 20 minutes. And it was like, we have, our lists of our what we want to possibly talk about on our shows, and ones that don't take a full hour, and I thought this would just be going over kind of how I do it and how I've seen other people do it a little bit, and some of the important things and lessons I've learned with it. Might be able to help some people keep a plant constantly going in their garden.
So what's the method that you do? What's the advice that you would give, like, for somebody that wants to keep that perpetual gardening going all year round? I mean, what's the, it might not be proven, but it works for Big Earl.
So for me, the biggest lesson that I learned was keep a fucking calendar. Like, keep a calendar. I like dry erase boards personally, but I keep it a month ahead of time. Like, I know where I'm my month and a month ahead of time. And man, does it make things easy, because it's just a recipe after that, especially if you know your cultivars. So you know this plant's a 9-week plant. You know how your veg room works, or you know how, maybe you don't have a veg room and you take as soon as you flip your tent to flower, you take clones and you try to keep them real small, and like one of those tote cloners that we were talking about. Or maybe you like to, autoflowers are a really, really easy way to do a perpetual garden, because you can just plant one, feminized autoflowers. Plant one, wait 3 weeks, 20 days, 30 days, plant one, wait 30 days, plant one, wait 30 days, harvest one, plant one, wait 30 days, harvest one, plant one, super easy that way. Biggest thing there is drying, which you brought up before.
Gotta have that space,
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest thing there. And I've heard different tricks, but I don't really like you want some air move. There's like things you want and need there, and being protected from a larger room, dust going everywhere, stuff like that's pretty important. So
yeah, because I know people that dry in their closets. I've seen it. I mean, I know for sure.
Yeah.
And some people I've seen where they like made that closet like so sanitary, like they put film all around it, and it's like all dialed in. You know, they got two fans blowing. They make sure they got a small little humidifier in there, trying to keep it around 60%. You know, and that's, you got to think. And some people don't have that. Some people just have to throw it right in their closet if that's where they do their drying at. I get it, but you got to understand something. It could get contaminated. Don't forget, there's mold and spores and yeast and dust that float through the air. Especially, you know,
basement or something.
That's why I keep mine in my tent. And as soon as, here's the deal about the tent: that tent gets sealed to the tilt. I mean, nothing is open. The airflow comes from my fan. You know, because I don't want nothing going in there and contaminating my weed. I mean, I took you 90 to 120 days to grow to where you had your booty, baby, the booty you're going to smoke now. You know, that treasure chest that took you and that you loved and cared for. Now you're at that point where you don't want to fuck that up, you know? So remember that.
How much we've talked about so many times, the rushed or the lack of effort in drying and curing, and it's just so devastating.
You're to the end, man. You're to the end. You worked. You fucking took care of these babies, and don't ruin the end. That's the key to where it's gonna get you that good smoke.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's
no, I know.
All of it.
I know. Yeah.
But no, behind keeping a calendar, we got off. But develop a pest management. Like, don't react. You need to be in front of it. You need to develop, because if you're just going one after the other, that pest management needs to be on point. When you can stop and flip, you can spray bleach, you can do whatever the fuck you want when your plants aren't in there, and really clean it and say, okay, I know nothing's living in here, and you can reset it. If it's going perpetual, one plant has a problem, your whole room continues to have a problem, because it never leaves. It just pops pot to pot.
Yeah, because you got to think, in a tent in a basement, you're going to get some spiders. I don't mind a spider, though. I like a spider. I found one in the corner one time after I was done. You know, before I did the dry, I found one in the corner, just a little house spider. But I was like, you know what? I'm glad you were there. Yeah. I'm glad. I'm not mad about it. You're not in my plant, you know. But if any bugs decide to fucking swing in there, that spider's gonna get you. Oh, dude. So I don't mind a good spider. I don't mind a good spider.
Outside, especially like tomatoes and all, like the garden outside, we will get these giant wolf spiders, I think they're called sometimes.
Oh man, like those things
eat your cat. They do, dude. But they're not, I mean, they're just taking care of business, and I like them.
Yeah, I like spiders, man. They're good. That stutter and prick, that spider stutter and prick you. Goodfellas reference. Sorry, everybody.
So calendar, IPM, get on, and it's IPM doesn't have to be some crazy spray this, spray that. Alcohol, soaps, diatomaceous earth, sulfurs, like all this shit. Some of it has sulfur can be used in your plant. You can use that on top of your soil. If you're running organic, you might want to look into that, because it can have some organic killing properties, mostly like the biology, but like it can all be done pretty well and pretty easily. You just have to be on top of it, you know. Another tip would be clean when it's convenient for you. When you cut down a tray or you cut down an area, clean. Like, so say you're in a 2x4 tent, you have 4 plants, right? Well, if you cut down the back right corner, take that one in front of it out a little bit, or move everything around a little bit, clean that area really good, because that's going to be easiest for you. It beats coming back in and being like, okay, now I got to move all 4 plants out, or now I don't have this open area that I can, you know, like, so just take advantage of your little moments when you can. And like in a room like mine, I have a couple different trays. And so when I cut down a tray, it's more than just cutting down a tray. It's cutting down that tray, cleaning the wall closest to that tray, cleaning any fans closest. If it's the tray closest to the DHU, clean the DHU. If it's the tray closest to the AC, clean the AC. It keeps me on my strict calendar. It keeps me on my program.
Keeps you on point, baby. Keeps you on point.
And I try to clean my AC, honestly, more than that. But I know I for sure clean my AC every 2 months. Like, not take it down and clean it, but spray it all out, spray it all in, get my bib on it, fucking, you know, take my filters out, clean all those, and clean the drain pipe, like little things that can collect mold by it, because even though I'm spraying Zerotol, and things that aren't going to hurt the plants really, I don't want to hit anything in flower. I don't want to hit my flower with Zerotol. I don't want to hit my flower with alcohol. I know that it's safe and that it's okay. I just don't like it. I don't want to. So it makes it just easier. In a tent, spray down that little back corner. No plants already. Get a little spray bottle and clean the back corner when that plant gets harvested. I know that it's smaller there and it might be easier just to get the whole back side, but plan that into it. Plan that ease into it. Maybe you're taking down 2 plants. You have 4 plants. You're taking down 2 plants at a time. Every time you harvest those 2 plants, fucking clean that shit. The cleaner, the better. Have your areas planned out. If you're in a perpetual garden, unless you have autoflowers, you need 2 areas. A flowering area and then the other. The other can be clones and veg, but it needs to be, the other could be a tote. Literally, we were talking about this little clone tote, and it's just, what do they call it? 27-liter totes, those black and yellow totes at Lowe's.
Yeah, I think that's what they are. I don't know. I'm fucking baked now, so I can't fucking. You're talking numbers now?
Something like that. I don't know. One of them, sometimes when I sell for like $5, those totes, whatever it is. But I saw one of these LEDs are so dope now, and so not hot. They had a couple little veg LEDs in there on the lid, and then they put a computer fan in the side of that bitch. And they put like a little filter on the other side, almost like you're growing mushrooms.
MacGyver in that shit right there.
2 holes with like the cotton, not cotton, but like the medical covers on it or whatever, like mushrooms, like keeping it sterile. And it's just like, man, like you could probably get away with that if you had plants and before you took it and you put it into the tent, right? And you veg it in the tent for 1 or 2 weeks from that tote. And then right before you flip to flower, maybe the first week in flower even, because some people debate that. First week in flower, you have less nitrogen typically, which is easier to clone, some people say, because your plant won't focus on growing as much. So some people take fucking clones first week of flower. So let's say you take clones first week of flower. Okay, you throw them in your tote. You keep them fucking small. Get through flower, keep them small in there, low feeding, low light, cut them back early, cut them back fast, make sure your nodes don't get too spread out so you can keep that shit stout. Maybe feed it some monosilicic acid at a heavy dose rate to keep it stout. There's some different tips and tricks, but when you're about to flower, cut that down, find yourself a little closet that you think is sterile, move those plants into there, and then you move your tote into your tent. You let it grow and veg in your tent for maybe 2 weeks. 1 week in flower, take the clone. 8 weeks later, you're ready to chop. Your clones are, it's going to be, you're going to have a technique to keep your fucking clones that short in that tote. But it can definitely be done. Like, they can survive for sure. Keep it rotating, but you need those 2 areas. Unless you have autoflowers, it's very hard. Like, I would be interested in perpetual gardening without that. Like, you'd be talking some MacGyver, like a green edge or something. Like, I'm not smart enough to think about that. But, and lastly, just stay on your schedule. Sometimes, you fall behind, do this and that, but like the garden stops for fucking nobody. I need to make that into a shirt. Garden stops for nobody.
The grow hour. The garden stops for nobody.
The garden fucking stops for
nobody. Better fucking steal that for our t-shirt. That might be our first t-shirt. The front, the logo, we do got stickers now. We do got grow hour stickers. I just haven't fucking shown anybody yet. I got to. I was waiting for you to see you. I was waiting for you to come back into town. I was going to give you some, and then we were going to fucking showcase them. But that's the grow hour in the front, and then what we put on the back. What did you just say?
Your garden stops for nobody.
I love it. I love it. That's a great fucking line right there. Your gardens. I got to write that down before I forget. Got to write that down. That's the second thing I wrote down today for the show. So I got to write that down.
Shit don't stop. So, and you don't trim up today. That shit's going to be worse tomorrow. You don't trim up tomorrow, next week. That's just going to be way worse. It's going to take you twice as long and your bud's going to suffer from it. All kinds of shit, And so, you
wrote it down.
You're tired. You got that extra 15 minutes today. Just get it done. Perpetual.
The garden starts for nobody.
Stops for nobody, baby.
And that's going to be like, I'm going to put in big parentheses, because Big Earl said so.
Yeah. Exclamation mark.
Dude, I wrote that down, everybody. Because I'll forget, because I'm baked. So I'll forget it.
Go back through and listen to the show.
That's my second idea, though. That's the second good idea. I wrote down 2 today. Before the show, we were talking about the other idea I wrote down. Can't tell anybody that one yet, though, because it might not happen. That's just an idea. Hopefully it'll happen. But so what's the super duper ooby dooby newbie tip?
All right. We mentioned a couple times, but use 10 times CalMec. No, I'm just fucking.
No, it's not the end of the show yet.
Autoflowers.
There it is.
Get it, guys. People have their doubts. Fuck, guys. I love them both. And I'm honestly, I like my photos better for certain reasons. But if you have a 2x4 tent, autoflowers are so fucking easy to manage that way.
You know what? All right. So I did Reg Fem, and that was fucking super easy. When you start doing Autoflower Fem, Earl, that's when I think I'm going to move like right into that, and just that's when I think you'll see my perpetual gardening come. That's when I think I'll start doing it, because then when I don't have to think about it, and just like it's just going to turn and burn and get different flavors from you. Oh, it's on like Donkey Kong. Alabrije too, and Hummingbird Hills. Those probably the 3 of you will probably be in the repertoire once you have that all dialed in.
Dude, I love photos, and lighting another light doesn't dim. One candle doesn't dim the other candle. Whatever, I'm all high. I can't light one joint doesn't make the other joint less dank.
I like that one better. That's another nice T-shirt too.
Full of them. This blueberry fucking soda's got us full of ideas.
It's good stuff. I love it.
But yeah, autoflowers, man, that shit's easy. Oh, this is gonna be done in 90 days. Like you literally can plant that shit every 30 days, 20 days, whatever it ends up being. And maybe it's a little longer than 90 days. Who gives a fuck? Because that's such an easy schedule.
Speaking of blueberry soda, that's another strain I was a pig on, just so you know. Between the GG4, which I took the most of, and if any of my family and friends who partake with me, and the blueberry soda was another one I took. The only one I gave that to my niece. She needed some weed, and I gave her a nice jar of that because I knew how good it was.
Yeah.
I'm a pig.
And the plant too was such a beastly plant. Like when I tested that plant out, I was using a 4x4 area for maybe like 12 plants or something. I can't remember 100%, but I remember this plant took up about a third of the entire area. Like, and I couldn't do fucking dick to stop it. Like it was just going to grow. So, I crossed that peach tank to it.
Nice.
So we'll see how they turn out.
So basically you're talking about what your schedule is, what you do,
Yeah. So for me, I have a veg room and a flower room, and I dry in my flower room. Perpetual garden is very nice for that too, because if you have a separate dry area, that dry area can be 4 times smaller. You're not drying the entire growing area at the same time. You're drying for 2 weeks at a time. So if you're harvesting every 2 weeks, it falls with your fucking.
And you do the whole plant, right?
Yeah,
from what I've seen. Yeah, you take the whole fucking plant and dry it upside down. It's fucking dope. When I saw that, I have not tried that yet. It's a possibility because I got enough room in the tent to do that.
Oh, it's so nice. What I go to my plant. If there are some leaves, I'll trim those up. Usually they're done. Usually about week 7 to 8, I like to trim up. And I heard, I've never seen this in a study, anything, but I'm a fucking dweeb when it comes to old school gossip. But that when you cut an area, more silica comes to that area. So I never like to trim my leaves up too late. And I know a lot of people do it, and I've had weed that has been trimmed up really late, but I just never fucking try. I don't know why. I'm just stupid like that. So I try to do my last trim up week 7, 8, and give the plant time to recover. And they're pretty bare down to the flowers then, like a few leaves. But going to the plant, I write the initials and the number if it's a pheno hunt on the stalk. Then I cut the whole plant down and hang it. Don't have to transfer any of the any of the tags in there, or remember what it was, or just write it right on the stalk with a permanent marker.
That's pretty nice.
It works very, very well, and my little tray areas, it makes cutting down really easy. and it dries really nicely. Honestly, the branches kind of keep it separated a little bit from itself. And how the dry tents I have are set up, they pull air out of the top and they have the filter down at the bottom. So air comes in the bottom, naturally goes over all the flowers and goes up to the top.
Hmm.
I put a couple 6-inch fans in there also, and I push air back down just to try to get it mixed up a little bit. But it works really well. So typically you got 2 weeks to clone, yeah. So you put that into your schedule. Your veg is usually 3 to 4 weeks. If you have to last the whole, like if you're taking a clone week 1 of flower on a 9-week strain, and you're doing that whole fucking tote tech we were talking about, this is obviously going to be different. But this is just for me. So I'm usually 2 weeks to clone. I'm pretty happy if I can see roots like on everything after 14 days ready to go. If it's not ready to go by then, I'm usually not bringing the clone out, unless it's in like an entire strain. Then I'll wait for it, obviously. But comes out in the veg for 3 to 4 weeks. Sometimes the schedule flip it early, sometimes flip it a little late. You just do what you can do. In my case, in larger gardens and different things that are on like that super strict time schedule, you're on fucking time. But in my case, the 3 to 4 weeks, like 10-week strain to 9-week strain, stuff like that, you just do what you can do there. And then 9 to 10 weeks in flower is how I like it. I don't like when people give me 8-week strains. The only time I run a strain for 8 weeks is if it herms on me at week like 9 or 10. Like I don't like. I'd rather finish and be more bronze and have a more developed plant than go for the highest THC on that harvest. So for me, I take my clones week 3 to 5. Then it just depends on how that's breaking down for me. So between week, if I'm flipping in, so I got a tray, it's at week 3 to 5. I plan to take clones for that tray at week 3 to 5 in flower. So it goes from, I know that is exactly for that tray. I know exactly when that tray comes down, it's getting fucking stocked back. It goes, oh, baby.
She decided to come in and join us.
Yeah. We want to have a chat.
Yuki girl, I love you.
But yeah, that's if it rotates right through like that. And that's really the whole schedule and calendar. When I started keeping a calendar and started keeping my schedule like that, instead of being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get some clones going for this. Oh yeah, I hope like it would just everything falls in and you just keep pace.
I love it. What somebody like myself though, how would you be able to manage something like that on a schedule, like with a small grow like myself? Like I don't have a whole basement grow. Like how can I manage something like that?
What I would do, I would get that tote, and I would try to take fucking clones if you like that plant. Now you can also do seeds. You could pop seeds in that tote. Seeds naturally take longer to fucking pop, and you could run through some photo period seeds. Then if you find something you really really like, you can take that clone and re-veg. I've taken tons of clones pretty late in the flower. They're pretty easy to fucking clone. Now, after you see roots, they like stall out, most of them, and then they get real funky growth. But it normalizes, and it takes a month or so. But that might be inducive for what you're doing anyway.
There you go.
So,
there you
not
go.
that you want to, but yeah, that's it's really hard, man. It's really hard with 1 2x4 area to run that without using seeds. So, but that's it.
I mean, I like your fucking schedule though. It's pretty. It works for you, but I think it could work for a lot of people. Because it's so the way you dialed it in. But it's also like you said, keeping a calendar, keeping a good written journal. Making sure you're paying attention to your timelines throughout the whole way. So it's not that perpetual gardening is not hard. It's just being consistent, right?
Yeah, it's just you have to really. I mean, it's just it's keeping your plan. When you're going through one garden and you're done, it can be you can be done. You say, oh, I think it's time. I'll clean that whenever I want to clean it, or even if you're hustling it, like and you're cleaning it tomorrow and reflipping it, it's like a complete reset, And
right.
And really back in the day, and this isn't speaking from my own personal experience. I was lucky enough to work with people that were growing in the '90s, and they would talk about it. A lot of these gardeners back in the day would do 1 or 2 harvests a year, maybe 3, and which, I mean, 3, they get clones, 3 would probably be their full year, but 1 or 2 harvests a year, and it was so lucrative that you could take a little vacation afterwards. You know, they go follow fish.
Yeah, when you were getting 5,000 a pound, it was great. I remember those days. Those the '90s. The '90s when you first I don't want to tell my whole story, but back in the '90s when you and Earl, you and I have talked a little bit about my history, and I just not there to share it yet. And but when I was selling $5,000, $4,000 to $5,000 pounds of straight dro back then, but it did cost you a lot more money to do it all too. Don't forget.
And yields were way lower. There wasn't, people weren't hitting 3 pounds of light.
No, I mean, one room sometimes would get you 1.5 pounds if you were 2 pounds if you were lucky. Depending on how many rooms you had, but that's for another story. But yes, sometimes you maybe in a small little 1 room full tray grow, like you might get a couple pounds. So if that's your 5-10 grand, but it might have cost you probably $3 grand to set it all up and all of it the way it costs to the end. So you could probably pop about $7 grand, but that's good money, man.
A grand was way farther in the 90s. I didn't even have a grand in the 90s. That was a fucking
But like I said, if you're making $4,500 a pound, some people were selling their shit for, dude, that's a lot of money. A lot of money. When I was
in college, if you wanted heady weed, you're paying $60 a fucking eighth. If you wanted pretty good weed, it was $50 an eighth, and the normal shit was $30. And it wasn't even called anything around me, at least 30s, 50s, and 60s.
Right.
And answered all your questions.
Yeah, that's it's pretty well. That is, like I've always said, you got okay, good, and great. So an okay meant it's cheap, but you can afford it. Good was good and great was, I'm paying a lot. But, when you have that kind of money and you can get really good, you're going to buy the really good. Why is it preferred by so many people, this perpetual gardening? I mean, you've hit on a lot of points why it's preferred for you, but why do most people it's preferred to them?
So when you get into like large gardening, the biggest thing is that it spreads out the work and you can fit way more into a smaller space. If you're doing a whole giant room and then you have to have a dry area for that whole giant room, and then you have to have a veg area for that whole giant room, you have to have a much larger space than if you're splitting that giant room into a quarter. Now your dry room only has to be a quarter size of that, and your veg room still needs to be a decent size, but you can be rotating through that shit to where you don't have to have a veg room big enough to hold all of your week 4 or 5 veg plants. It only has to be big enough to hold a quarter of your week 4 and 5, a quarter of your week 3 to 4, a quarter of your week 2 to 3, and a quarter of your week 1 to 2s with some clones. So that's the biggest thing, really. It spreads out the workload, because now instead of having 1 pound to trim at a time, there's a quarter of a pound to trim at a time, and you just work through it that way. And then when you're done with that quarter pound, another quarter pound comes, and another quarter pound comes. So instead of being 2 people to get a pound done in 4 hours, 1 person can get that pound done in 2 hours over 2 weeks.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good yield, the way I look at it.
And like it's nice. It's like if I had to harvest my entire garden at a time, first off, my patients wouldn't be getting fresh cannabis all the time. They would be getting fresh cannabis half the time, and then the other half the time, it would only be a month to 6 weeks old, but it'd still be older than I usually have my weed down 2 weeks. I'm starting to burp it usually, but recently I've been throwing it into the groves.
Yeah, you don't have to burp no more.
And as soon as it's in those groves, I let them smell it. That's really what it is. You can smell whatever you want. I'll just tell you, I harvested that 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I harvested that 6 months ago. And sometimes when it gets a little older, I take it out of the equation and put it aside for extraction or something. But
but I've smoked some of my, I had the Majin Fujita, man. I had like 2 big monster nugs still left of it. Kept it pretty dude, I fucking rolled 10 joints of that and we went to a little thing on Sunday. And dude, I fucking lit it up with a couple people and they're like, this is fucking good. I'm fucking stoned. I'm like,
nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I like I said, I kept that, it's kept in a really good, really good place to keep that humidity and the cold of the room at like perfection, I think. Almost it's almost like a wine cellar, I could call it, where you want it to be at that temperature, so but it still smokes fucking great and it's still sticky as fuck.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And that's over a year old.
Fuck yeah.
So I mean, I don't know, and I still have, like I said, 4 monster nugs of the Louis Trey, the Weedman 420 experimental strain that I think I'm gonna put. I told you I'm gonna put in the Grove bags and see what happens. Leave it in there for a couple weeks and see what happens with a Boveda, and then smoke it. I can still smoke it. It's probably got tons of CBN in it. And it's still not. It's not that dry. I took a nug out and I like felt it. It's not wet, but it's not like brittle.
Yeah,
it's still got sponge to it. That's pretty good. I don't understand much, why it kept that way. I just know I keep it in a really good area.
That's why. You're in a good area. You're in a dry area, it's gonna dry out. You're in a wet area, it's probably gonna fucking mold. You got it stored perfectly, properly. That's how you get it to last.
Yeah. I'll show you when you come by in a couple weeks. I'll show you the Majin Fujita and I'll show you the Weedman.
We should reach out to Ghost Genetics. We've talked about Majin so much.
I fucking love that strain. We should reach out to him. We should have him on the show. He deserved I mean, but the two best I think strains that I grew look wise, high wise too, but look wise was the Louis and fucking the Majin Fujita. Fucking Yeet was beautiful looking too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeet was really fucking good, dude.
Yeah. We gotta smoke some of that when you come by too, because it's smelled fucking fantastic now. But yeah, those 2 strains though were some of the best looking crystally big fat chunkers, of strains that I grew, and that Majin Fujita, man, people gave me mad props on that one too. Like they this is like really good. I'm like, thanks. It's genetics. It's not mine. It just came out nice. I just grew it right, and that fucking grow was huff. Remember, that fucking shit grew all over the fucking tent, man. There was no control in that fucking. There was no control in that fucking plant. I remember I'm like, there's just no control. I can't stop. And I had 3 in that tent. So I mean, but it was a fun grow. I mean, like I said, I got a lot of yield. I got 9 ounces out of that fucking thing. Smokable weed. The rest of them got pushed to fucking eddies and butters and shit and teas. So, but yeah, it's a fun fucking thing. Speaking of breeding and speaking of breeders, dude, we got some exciting stuff coming for everybody in the next 3 shows, right?
Yes.
So we got. I'm gonna let Earl talk about what we're going to be talking about with each breeder, but we got the breeding segment coming the next 3 episodes, and I'm super stoked because we got Scapegoat, and Earl's going to give you a history of them, Seattle Chronic, and UFO. And I've been on their sites and I've seen their stuff, and man, I'm super stoked. So let's talk about Scapegoat first.
Yeah, he'll do the first show, so he'll be our next show. We're doing a 3-segment part, and have we talked about this a little bit before? I can't remember.
We did on a 1 year. We talked a little bit about it, but not in huge depth. But
yeah, okay, I see. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, so with Scapegoat, we're gonna go over before you make seeds, and this is gonna be part of a 3-show segment of before you make seeds, making seeds, and now your seeds are made. What do you do? There's a lot of people out there doing it, and even a lot of people like me, dude. Like these guys have been doing it. I've personally been following a lot of their stuff. I've popped most all their genetics, not like every strain they made, but like a lot of different. Like, dude, it's gonna be fun. Scapegoat's from here in Michigan, which is cool. He makes like topicals and stuff. And if you're in the weed game a little bit, Scapegoat Genetics. He's wee woo on
Wee woo,
Instagram.
wee woo, wee woo.
Wee woo, yeah. I'm not gonna. I think it's WEEWWUU or something like that. Fuck, I should have looked that up before the show. But
he'll tell us when he comes on.
Yeah, he's a really cool breeder. Black Cherry Cheesecake Cookies (BCCC) is probably it's like a pack I've had for a while that's been like sitting there like just waiting to be popped, bro. I'm so geeked for this. And then making the seeds, Seattle Chronic. Dude, we use almost solely Seattle Chronics hemp seeds out at our when we did all the CBD stuff. And man, everything from him, he is a fucking OG. They call him the captain. And
I can't wait to ask him. I can't wait to ask him why.
I'm so excited to talk with him. We've talked through email a little bit and on Instagram a little bit. Same with all these guys. We've talked a little bit about this and that, and I've got a lot of all their seeds. And then now the seeds are made, right? So what do you do now? Because I know there's a lot of people out here that have been making seeds, and maybe they did the before the seeds. Maybe they made the seeds, and now what the fuck? How do you get rid of these seeds? And so UFO Genetics, he does some really cool stuff. He does like auctions every Saturday. He has a website. He's super active in the community, and he's going to be a really cool guy to talk to about some of these different options and some of his thoughts on what to do now that your seeds are made. So it's going to be a fucking cool ass episode for anybody interested in seeds, especially, but I think for everybody. So UFO also, that blueberry soda, that is UFO. He has a lot of really nice blueberry work.
And that's what we're smoking on right now. I'm pretty stoned. Yeah. Thanks, UFO. I'm looking forward to the breeding segment. I'm looking forward to learning more about breeding for one day. Like if I ever have a big enough area to do breeding. We did our first little breeding project outside. It was kind of fun, but I'm super stoked to have these three breeders on and learn from three, I guess, what would you call them? Like fucking some of the OGs in the industry, some people that they're well known, Yeah,
I would say OGs by today's fucking standards for sure. And OGs probably by any standards. And just I think supporters of the plant, supporters of the movement. They're, I'm not, they're just people to know. And they're going to know what they're talking about, and they're going to have a unique, fucking accurate perspective of
then we'll have them on for their burping in the bag episodes too, which is going to be dope. And then we're going to have them on for the roundtable discussion. It might be a threefer. If we can't get somebody else to do a show on breeding, it might be a threefer. We might have all three of them on. That'd be our first threefer instead of a twosome.
I hope they do. I hope they want to do that with us. And dude, it's going to be dope.
It's gonna be a good show, but I have to say, we have a channel on Instagram called the Vipers channel, and there's like 30 people on there, breeders, growers, meme peeps, just people that have been part of the show for a long time. And when I lost my account, they followed me right away. Some people we've had on the show too. And it's a fun channel. If you ever want to join, just DM me and I'll get you on the Vipers channel. But I want to thank Satisfied Mind for throwing some good questions out today on there. Because like I said, it's young growers, young breeders like myself that are just starting out, or people that are just newbies. And there's some people ask questions. We have Big Earl on there, of course. We have Mike from Straight A Genetics, Ali Brihe. We have Hummingbird Hills on there. I don't know who else we have on there, but this
fun chat.
Yeah, it's a really fun chat. The memes on there are great. The GIFs on there are fucking hilarious. People just throwing one-liners out is great. And, sometimes it comes in waves. Sometimes you don't hear from people for about a week, and all of a sudden, for 10 straight days, people are just fucking, our friends from fucking Australia, Tez and Reefer Terps are there, on this page. So we got people from all around the world. on this channel from one end to the corners to the other. So, which is kind of dope. But he asked he's a good grower. And I've seen a lot of his home grow and stuff. It looks fantastic. And he plays himself like he doesn't know his shit. But I want to say I thanks for the question. And the question that he asked, and thanks, Big Earl, for answering it, because I just told him what I do. I don't know if it's the 100% correct way to do it, but it's what I've learned and what I've read and what I've learned from this show. But he had asked, hold on a second, I'm trying to find it. He was bringing down his harvest, and he was asking about whenever it's about turning the lights off 24 or 48 hours before you harvest. And is it really true a thing? And so I just gave him what I did, but you gave a good answer. So because he asked what our thoughts, and he goes, generally he's asking not to criticize, but he asked maybe, is anybody out there do it different? And you gave a great response. And he also asked about the cold water flush or whatever makes sense to him. But he gave a great definition of it all. But then you said, can I read, or do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, you can read, or I can talk about it. It doesn't matter. So it was going crazy today, and I tried to read what I could. Dude, I've been so fucking busy lately. But so I read what I could. So I hope I didn't. I wasn't trying to correct anything or anything.
No, because I had asked any of our breeder friends, grower friends, can answer some of this, and that's why I have you all on there. Not because I love you and I love talking to all of you guys on there and gals on there, but also because there's young growers on there and people that are just home growers and people that want to learn more. That's why you all are on there too, to give your advice the best you can, because they might have supported you in your seed business too. So,
sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, Satisfied Mind. We talk pretty frequently on there, or at least give ourselves, thumbs up and likes and stuff. It was so through the chats. It was talking about the end of the light cycle, 24 hours. What this is at the end of your flowering period, you turn the lights off for 24 or 48 hours, and it's theorized that will increase the trichome production. I think probably through a stressor, but that's something I've never tried. I've heard people doing it for sure, and they do it probably for a reason, right? And so I could see it doing something like maybe pulling sugars, maybe doing something chemically there. I don't know why it would build trikes, but I wouldn't be able to say, "Hey, this doesn't build trikes." Like if it came out in science, I'd be like, "Oh yeah." I just don't, I don't know. I can say that at the beginning of the flowering period, I like 24 hours of darkness, and I can't really do it because I'm in a perpetual garden. But I will turn my lights not off, but like way down the first 24 hours. Some of them I turn off depending on the light it is, but most of them like have a nozzle on it, so I just turn it down to its lowest. And I'll turn it on for only 10 hours. So I just try to like really let it know for like that first few days maybe. But if I could, I would do the 24 hours of darkness, and that really just lets your plant know, hey, it's fucking time to flower. So will 10-hour days. If you start your first week and do 10-hour days, and if you have a super high light, like PAR on your light, absorbable light at your leaf, you might even be able to lessen that, depending on what your DLI, your daily light intake, would be. And I don't know a ton about that, but I do know that there's been some stuff that's come out. We talked about Bruce Bugby. Man, I always want to say Big B because of the coffee place up here, but and dude, he's so revolutionary in the stuff he does, as far as like the research and just how on point he is, and like he's like a professor at a university. I don't want to say the wrong one, but is he in some stuff he did, he found it was about daily light intake, and yeah, you can have too much PAR and you can burn and stuff, but plants will only absorb so much light in any given day. And so if you have a high PAR, that light is going to be reached quicker, so if you have a real powerful light or these real powerful LEDs real close, you might be able to run a 8 or 9 or 10-hour day and get really similar results. And then your power bill is
going down a little bit.
Yeah.
He also talked about the flush too, and you gave a great answer on that also.
Sure, yeah. So the flush, a lot people go in days, and that's fine. That's totally fine to say, oh, I flush for 7 days this day and that day. That's how I say it too. But when you're trying to figure out how you want to flush with the system that you run, typically it's about following the salt buildup in your pot. So you have your pot and you've been feeding it, and you feed it to runoff. Maybe you don't, whatever your method is, which I'd always suggest to get a little bit of runoff in anything. It just ensures that you're at least saturating the full pot. If you water slowly, don't water too super fast. But sorry. So you, when you're to read this, the easiest way is to read the runoff. There are tools out there that can read the soil, but typically soil's pH changes. It can change pretty quickly. And so unless you want to take like multiple readings of your pot and then like find the fucking average, if you do the soil, you can read the runoff. Or if you water the soil, you can read the runoff in the water. And so if you get a normal EC water meter that you can also then read your food, which is super, super important in my opinion. First meter you want is a pH. Second meter you want is a fucking EC ppm. You know, the only reason EC ppm isn't number one is because most nutrient lines give you the recommended dose. So pH usually is number one because everybody's water is a little different. But read the EC and the P or the parts per million coming out, and then when that gets down to, I like to get mine to under 0.5, but my water that I feed goes in at 0.2, so a 0.3 difference, and that's when I say, okay, I know it's time to cut. And I know for me, like how I water, that takes me a week, so I adjusted it that way. So over that week, it's slowly getting weaker. You know, at the beginning of that week, I started usually my first feeding that week, because I start my flush really 2 weeks early. I take a lot of my food out 2 weeks early, and I really want to start that flush down and start to relax the plant and really start to let it know, like, hey, you're going to run out of food, and just, you know, start that early. So by the time I get to my last week, my EC buildup in my pot probably goes from like going in a 1.7, 1.8, coming out at a 2.0, down to like a 1.5, which is what's preferred, by the way, guys. I run my shit super hot. I run 1 gallon pots under super high lights with pumped CO2 in there, and it's just the way that works for me. 1.5 EC has been found by fucking Bruce again to be the most optimal EC for your plants. This isn't my shit or any of the stuff. I was running hotter before I saw that shit, you know. And since I cut back a little bit, not only was my food better, but not only is my food cheaper, but my plants are healthier and things are, you know, nicer. So, but yeah, read the runoff, and when that comes down, that's when you know that you flush properly. But without that, just flush the shit out of it. Look at the plant. When you start to see those yellows and you start to see that ripeness, you can probably cut down, maybe wait a day or two where you think that there's almost nothing in the pot, salt-wise.
Nice. Thank you for the tip and the trick, and thanks Satisfied Minds for the questions on our Vipers channel. But also I wanted to show mad respect because you've been following us and talking to us for a very long time. We consider you a friend of the show. And one day we'll hook up. We'll trade some weed together. We've talked about it now for a hot minute. So, thanks. And anybody that ever has a question, just reach out to Big Earl or myself, and we'll definitely talk about it on the show. We appreciate that. You don't even know how much we appreciate that. To me, it humbles me a lot that you respect our show enough to ask us a question. So don't.
It's just so fun to talk about it, man. It's so fun to hear how people do it. Like, I just want to even on a tangent right there, having fun talking 20 minutes about stuff you didn't even ask, you know. And it's
because that blueberry soda, man.
Exactly. Blueberry soda.
Just makes you have some good conversation, you know. So. But looking forward to the next 3 shows, everyone. Stay tuned with this. I think you're really gonna like what we talked about. So really super stoked about this all what we got coming up, and looking forward to all the way to the end of the year. So stick with us, man. Hopefully everyone out there is enjoying it, and keep us sending us questions, keep us showing us love. We appreciate all the listens, all the likes, and all the DMs. You don't even know how much I appreciate it. I know Big Earl does too. Big Earl, one last thing. You got some genetics out there. You bagged back up, right? You packaged up and ready to go, right? What do you got going on?
I finished the end of my first Autoflower line. So I pack 50 packs of each line at a time, and then I do 100 tops. Sometimes it doesn't get to that. With autoflowers, I breed the one plant. With photo periods, I breed the one plant. In a 2x4 tent, they don't get very big. So I top out at 100. So I just put together my last 30 packs of a couple and 50 packs of a couple of my autoflowers, the Poos Peaches line. And then I just bagged up my 20 to 50 of the from number fucking 10 or 20 up to 50 of the photo period line, the Stanky Haze line. Man, dude, I fucking love that line. I'm so excited to get some more of those winners. My Chem Cheese Haze and the Peach Stank one specifically, because my strawberry, I found one that I really liked, but then there was one behind it that I thought I was gonna like more, but it was 2 weeks behind it, and so I let it go. And stupid, and I didn't get it. I just was stupid about it, bro. I don't even have an excuse for it. I didn't keep the strawberry that I wanted, basically, and so I was like, I'm gonna find that again, and then I fucking didn't find it again. So now I have to hunt it again.
That's why you're a pheno hunter, man.
I was like, man, surely I'll find this again, and I did a fucking 10 seed or 8 seed hunt the first time, and the second one was more, and I didn't find it.
Don't call me Shirley.
But yeah, it didn't work. That's the tragedies of cannabis.
That's it. So what's the other tragedy of cannabis too we always fuck up about?
We don't ever I try to sometimes, but I don't ever use enough CalMag. The amount of CalMag that I try to use, that just, I don't know what happens.
Everybody, we love you. Don't forget the CalMag. Peace. Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.